The stars looked the same as they did 300 years ago when Earth died. Jinha floated in the dark between two dead moons, watching the lights of a hegemony patrol ship move across the black sky. His breathing was slow and quiet inside. His suit, the cold, did not bother him anymore. Nothing much bothered him anymore. He had been 8 years old when the sky above Seoul burned white. His mother had pushed him into the emergency pod just as the Vorthan ship started turning his world into glass. He still remembered her face through the small window as the pod shot away from Earth. She was crying, but she was smiling too. Live. She had said, just live. That was all any of them had done for 3 centuries. Just lived. Jinha. Haren's voice came through his cum, soft and calm. The patrol ship is moving into position. Are you ready? Jinha looked at the hegemony vessel. It was big and shiny and new. The kind of ship that had killed his world. The kind of ship that thought humans were extinct. I've been ready for 300 years, he said, far below him, hidden in the shadow of the larger moon. 50 human ships waited in silence. They did not look like much, pieces of metal welded together. Old engines, fixed with wire and hope. But they flew, and they fought, and that was enough. Haren was in the command ship, studying the enemy through sensors that should not have worked. She was smart in ways that made Jinha's head hurt sometimes. She could look at alien technology and understand it better than the aliens who built it. That was what happened when you spent your whole life learning how to survive with nothing. Their shields are standard hegemony design, Haren said, but look at this. They have new sensors, very new. They are looking for something. Looking for what? Quan asked. The young pilot's voice was tight with excitement. He had never seen a real hegemony ship before. None of the young ones had. They only knew them from stories and nightmares. They are looking for us, Jinha said. The hegemony patrol ship moved closer to the asteroid field where the humans had been mining ice and metal for decades. Its sensors swept across the rocks and empty space, searching for signs of life that should not exist. Jinha remembered the first time he had seen a hegemony intelligence report. Hara had stolen it from a data courier 5 years ago. The report had been very clear. Sol system, sterilized. Human species, extinct, threat level, 0. They had laughed about it then. It was funny in a dark way. The galaxy thought they were dead, while they built new ships from the bones of old ones and learned out how to live in places where nothing should survive. Captain, one of the young miners said over the cum. Should we run? Hide? Jinha smiled inside his helmet. The boy sounded scared. Good. Fear kept you alive, but running? They had been running for 300 years. No, Jinha said. Today. We stopped running. The hegemony ship was close now. Close enough that Jinha could see the weapons ports along its hull. Big weapons. The kind that could crack planets. The aliens inside probably felt very safe and very strong. Haren had taught him something important over the years. She said that strength was not about having the biggest gun or the fastest ship. Strength was about understanding what your enemy did not expect. The hegemony expected humans to be extinct. They expected empty space and dead rocks. They did not expect what lived in the shadows between the stars. All ships, Jinha said into his cum. Remember what we are? He heard the responses. Come back one by one. Voices from the dark. People who had never seen Earth but carried its memory in their blood. People who had learned to breathe vacuum and eat starlight and turn their pain into something sharp and deadly. We are the ones who survived, Haren said. We are the ones. They missed, Quan added. We are the ones who remember, the others replied. Jinha moved his hand to the control that would activate his ship's systems. For 300 years they had stayed hidden. They had scavenged and survived and grown strong in the places where nothing should live, but strength, without purpose, was just waiting to die. The hegemony ship stopped directly above the asteroid field. Its sensors were active, scanning everything. Jinha could feel the alien eyes looking through the rocks and ice, searching for threats that were already extinct. Haren, he said, show me their crew. The command ship's sensors reached out and touched the hegemony vessel. Information flowed back across the dark. Pictures and data that painted a story Jinha knew well. 37 crew members, Harin. Saad, mixed species, Vorthan command staff, they look comfortable. Comfortable. Yes, that was the word. They felt safe in their big ship with their big guns. Hunting ghosts in a graveyard they had made, Jinha thought about his mother's face, about Earth burning, about 300 years of living like rats in the walls of the galaxy. All ships, he said. Power up. Let's introduce ourselves. The dark around the asteroid field suddenly blazed with light as 50 human ships came. Alive at once. Engines that had been cold and silent roared to life. Weapons that looked like they were built from scrap. Metal began to glow. The hegemony ship's alarm started screaming. Jinha activated his communication system and sent a message directly to the alien vessel. The same message Harin had helped him write years ago when they first decided that hiding was not enough anymore. Hegemony patrol ship, he said, his voice carrying across the void. This is Commander Jinha of the Human Survival Fleet. You are in our space now. He paused, watching the enemy ship's weapons begin to charge. You missed some of us. The battle that followed would be remembered for a very long time. Not because it was big or important, but because it was the first time in 300 years that humans had said hello to the galaxy that tried to kill them, and the galaxy was about to learn that humans had some very interesting things to say. The Hegemony Council chamber was very quiet. 7 species sat around the great table, each one representing billions of lives across the galaxy. They were the rulers of everything that mattered. They decided who lived and who died. They had killed entire worlds with a simple vote, but today they were scared. This is impossible, said Councillor Vex, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. Humans have been extinct for 3 centuries. We watched their homeworld burn. The hologram in the center of the table showed the wreckage of Patrol Ship 73. What was left of it, anyway? The human ships had torn it apart like hungry animals. But they had not just destroyed it. They had sent a message, words carved into the hull in perfect galactic standard. We remember everything. Councillor Thane leaned forward, her scaled hands gripping the table. Our intelligence networks show no trace of human activity. No colonies. No ships. Nothing. Then explain this, said Councillor Moore, pointing at the hologram. Explain how 37 of our people died to ghosts. 3 days had passed since the attack. 3 days of emergency meetings and frantic calls to fleet commanders across the galaxy. The hegemony was trying to understand something that should not exist, but deep in the research labs below the council chambers. Dr. Harin was learning things that made her smile. She had been inside the hegemony research station for 6 hours now. The alien scientists who worked there were all dead, but their computers were still running. Information flowed across her helmet display faster than most beings could read, but Harin was not most beings anymore. Jinha, she said quietly into her, come, you need to see this. Jinha moved through the station's corridors like a shadow. His feet made no sound on the metal floors. His breathing did not fog his helmet. The cold that would kill most aliens felt warm to him now. Behind him, 20 other humans moved the same way. Silent, deadly, adapted, they found Harin in the main laboratory, standing over a computer terminal that showed genetic data, charts, and graphs filled the screen, painting a picture that made Jinha's blood run cold. They have been studying us, Harin said. Even after they thought we were extinct, look at this. The screen showed human DNA, but not the DNA of the people who had lived on Earth 300 years ago. This was different, changed, evolved. They found bodies, Harin continued, human bodies in the void. People who had died in space, in the cold, in places where nothing should survive. And they studied them. Jinha looked at the data. The scientists had been very thorough. They had found humans who could live without oxygen for hours. Humans whose bones were stronger than alien steel. Humans whose reflexes were faster than computer calculations. They know we have changed, he said. Yes, Harin replied. But they do not understand what it means. She touched another control, and the screen changed. Now it showed projections, theories. The alien scientists had tried to understand how humans could survive in space, how they could adapt so quickly, how they could become something new. All of their theories were wrong. They think it is genetic engineering, Harin said. They think we use technology to change ourselves. They do not understand that we did not choose this. Survival chose it for us. Jinha nodded. The aliens had never faced extinction. They had never been forced to live in the spaces between stars, eating ice and breathing vacuum. They had never learned what happened when a species had nothing left to lose. Quan? Jinha said into his cum. Status report. The young pilot's voice came back immediately. Perimeter is secure, Commander. No sign of hegemony reinforcements. The station is ours. Jinha looked around the laboratory. Alien technology filled every surface. Computers that could calculate the death of stars, weapons that could sterilize planets, medical equipment that could bring the dead back to life. All of it would be useful. Begin salvage operations, he ordered. Take everything we can carry, destroy everything we cannot. His people moved through the station like they had been born there. They understood alien technology better than the aliens who built it. 300 years of scavenging had taught them how to take apart anything and make it work for them, but Jinha was not thinking about technology. He was thinking about the fear he had seen in the Hegemony Council broadcasts. The way they talked about humans like they were monsters from old stories. They were right to be afraid. Harin walked over to him, carrying a data storage device filled with Hegemony intelligence files. Jinha, she said, there is something else. Something important. She activated her personal display, and information flowed across the air between them, maps of the galaxy. Fleet positions, colony locations, the complete military structure of the hegemony. They are not ready for a war, she said. Their fleets are spread thin. They have been peaceful for too long. They have forgotten how to fight a real enemy, Jinha smiled. The expression looked strange on his face. Humans had not had much to smile about for 3 centuries. Then we will remind them, he said. 2 hours later, the research station exploded. The blast could be seen from 3 star systems away. But before it died, the station's emergency beacon sent out a message to every hegemony facility in the sector. The message was simple. We are no longer the species you remember. Back on the Council world, the 7 species sat in emergency session. Reports were flowing in from across their territory. Strange sightings, missing ships, colonies that had gone dark without explanation. It has to be pirates, Counselor Vex insisted, or rebels or some kind of new terrorist group. But Counselor Thane was looking at the genetic data from the destroyed research station, the information that Harin had left for them to find. Data that showed exactly what 300 years of survival had done to the human species. No, she said quietly, this is something else. Something we created when we tried to destroy them. The hologram in the center of the table changed, showing a new image. A human face, scarred and hard and cold. Jinha's face recorded during the attack on the research station. We wanted them extinct, Counselor Thane continued. We should have done a better job. Outside the council chambers, across the galaxy, human ships moved through the dark. They were heading for new targets. New opportunities to remind the galaxy that extinction was a lesson, not an ending, and the lesson was just beginning. Quan floated in the cockpit of his fighter, watching 3 hegemony cargo ships move slowly through the asteroid field. They thought they were safe. They thought the rocks would hide them from human sensors. They were wrong about many things. Ghost. Leader to Ghost Squadron, Quan said into his cum. Target the engines first. We want them alive to spread the word. 15 voices answered him from the dark. His pilots were young like him, born in the void between stars. They had never breathed real air or felt real sunlight. But they could fly through asteroid fields at full speed without hitting a single rock. The hegemony pilots could barely fly in open space without computers helping them. Remember, Quan continued, we are not just attacking ships. We are attacking their minds, make them afraid, Make them tell stories? His fighter moved forward, silent as death. The other ghost ships followed him like a pack of hunting animals. They had been waiting in the asteroid field for 6 hours, knowing the cargo ships would come this way. Humans were very good at waiting. The first cargo ship never saw. What hit it? Quan's fighter appeared from behind a spinning rock and fired 3 shots into the engine section. The alien ship stopped moving and started spinning, but it did not explode. The second ship tried to run. Its captain activated the emergency drive and pointed toward open space. But Ghost 2 and Ghost 3 were already there, waiting. They fired at the same time, and the cargo ship's engines died instantly. The third ship did something smart. It sent out a distress call. Quan smiled inside his helmet. That was exactly what he wanted. All ships, pull back, he ordered. Let them talk. The Ghost Squadron disappeared back into the asteroid field like they had never been there. In 30 seconds, 3 cargo ships had been disabled and 15 human fighters had vanished completely. On the bridge of the first cargo ship, Captain Zor was trying not to panic. He had been flying these routes for 20 years. Nothing ever happened here. This was safe space, far from any conflict zones. Did you get a look at them? He asked his sensor operator. Negative, sir. They came out of nowhere. Ships I have never seen before. The configuration does not match any known design. Captain Zor looked at his disabled engines and tried to think. Pirates usually wanted cargo. Rebels usually wanted to send messages, but these attackers had done neither. They had just stopped him, sir, the communications officer said. I am getting reports from other sectors, similar attacks. Ships disabled but not destroyed. Crews left alive but terrified. Captain Zor felt something cold move through his stomach. How many attacks? 17 in the last 6 hours, sir. All across hegemony space. 17 attacks all at the same time. All with the same pattern. That was not pirates. That was not rebels. That was war. 200 light years away. Jin Ha stood on the bridge of his command ship and watched the tactical display. Red dots marked every human attack across the galaxy. 17 successful strikes, 0 losses. The pattern is working, Harin said from her station. They are confused. Their response times are getting slower. Jinha nodded. Confusion was a weapon, just like fear. The hegemony had been comfortable for too long. They had forgotten what it felt like to be hunted. What about the military response? He asked. Harin touched her controls and the display changed. Now it showed hegemony fleet movements. Warships rushing from sector to sector, trying to respond to threats that were already gone. They are chasing shadows, she said. Every time they send ships to one location, we hit somewhere else. They cannot protect everything at once. That was the beauty of the plan. The hegemony was huge. Thousands of worlds, millions of ships, billions of people, but that size was also a weakness. They could not defend everything. Humans did not need to defend anything. They could attack from anywhere. Sir, one of the young officers said. Message from Quan. The Ghost Squadron is ready for Phase 2. Jinha looked at the tactical display again. Phase 2 would be different? Phase 2 would make the hegemony understand that this was not going away. Tell him to proceed, Jinha said. Quan received the message while his squadron was hiding in the shadow of a dead moon. Phase 2 meant bigger targets. It meant making the aliens really afraid. All units, he said. New targets uploading now. Remember, we are not trying to win battles. We are trying to win minds. The Ghost Squadron split up and disappeared into the dark. Each pilot had a different target. Each target had been chosen very carefully. Ghost 2 attacked a luxury passenger liner. She disabled the engines and then broadcast a message to everyone on board. Tell them we remember Earth. Ghost 5 hit a diplomatic courier. He took the ship's communication logs and left behind a single image. A picture of Earth burning. Ghost 7 found a hegemony research vessel. She did not attack it. She just followed it for 6 hours, never quite close enough to be seen clearly, never far enough away to be ignored. The alien crew sent panic reports about being stalked by unknown vessels. Quan himself chose the most important target, a hegemony admiral's personal yacht. Traveling between fleet headquarters, the yacht was big and expensive and protected by 6 escort fighters. Admiral Vorth was inside, probably drinking expensive wine and reading reports about how the human problem would be solved soon. Juan appeared directly in front of the yacht, close enough that his fighter filled their forward view screen. "Hegemony vessel," he said over the communication channel. "This is Ghost, leader of the human survival fleet." The escort fighters immediately moved to attack positions, but Quan was already gone. He had jumped to hyperspace for exactly 3 seconds, then dropped back into normal space behind the yacht. "Your weapons are useless," he continued. "Your shields are meaningless. Your speed is nothing. We can reach you anywhere, anytime." He fired a single shot that took out the yacht's main communication array. "Tell your people this: we lived in the places where you thought nothing could survive. We learned to hunt in the dark between stars. We became what extinction looks like when it grows teeth." Then he was gone again, vanishing into hyperspace before the escort fighters could even turn around. Admiral Vorth sat in his command chair, staring at the empty space where the human fighter had been. His hands were shaking. "Sir," his aide said quietly, "should we report this?" The admiral thought about the human's words, about the way the fighter had moved, about the cold certainty in the pilot's voice. "Yes," he said, "report it. Tell them we are not fighting pirates or rebels." He paused, looking out at the stars that suddenly seemed much less friendly. "Tell them we are fighting something we created, something that learned to hunt us while we thought it was dead." Across the galaxy, the reports flooded in. 17 attacks had become 50. 50 had become over 100. Human ships appeared everywhere and nowhere, striking without warning and vanishing without trace. The hegemony was beginning to understand that they had a problem. They just did not understand how big it was yet. The largest fleet in galactic history moved through space like a metal storm. 5,000 warships, 10,000 support vessels, weapons that could crack moons and shields that could stop suns. The hegemony had gathered everything they had, stripped defenses from 100 worlds, and pointed it all at one target, the human home system. Admiral Korek stood on the bridge of the flagship Judgment, watching the tactical display show the overwhelming force under his command. This was not a battle fleet. This was extinction made manifest. "Sir," his aide said, "we are approaching the target system." "Sensors show ... nothing," Admiral Korek frowned. "Nothing? No ships, sir. No stations, no signs of life. The system appears empty." That was wrong. Intelligence had tracked human signals to this system for months. There should be colonies here, shipyards, something. "Full sensor sweep," the admiral ordered. "Find them." But as the great fleet moved deeper into the system, the sensors found only empty space and dead rocks, no humans, no ships, no civilization. It was a trap. The attack came from everywhere at once. Human ships erupted from asteroid fields, from the shadows of planets, from the dark side of the system's star. They had been waiting, hidden, patient, and now they fell on the hegemony fleet, like hungry wolves. But these were not the same human ships the hegemony had fought before. These were bigger, stronger, built from the wreckage of hegemony vessels and powered by something that pulsed like a heartbeat. "All ships engage!" Admiral Korek shouted. "Fire everything!" The space between the planets lit up with weapons fire. Hegemony dreadnoughts unleashed planet-killer beams, while human fighters danced between the shots like they were playing a game. But the humans were not just dodging. They were learning. On the bridge of his command ship, Jinha watched the battle, through eyes that saw more than they should. Information flowed directly into his brain from the ship's computers. He could feel every human vessel like it was part of his own body. "Harin," he said without turning around. "Status?" Harin's voice came from everywhere and nowhere, speaking through the ship's communication system. But it was not just her voice anymore. It was the voice of every human pilot who had died fighting, their memories preserved in the ship's neural network. "Enemy formation is breaking," she said. They expected us to run. They do not understand that we have nowhere to run to. Jinha smiled. The hegemony still thought like conquerors. They thought about territory and resources and strategic retreat. But humans had learned a different kind of warfare in the void. Between stars. They had learned to fight like the dead had nothing to lose. Quan, Jinha said, "Where are you?" For a moment there was no answer. Then Quan's voice came through the com, but it sounded strange, distant. "I am here, Commander, and I am not here. I am in the ship, and the ship is in me," Jinha understood. Quan had made the connection. The final step in human evolution. He had become one with his fighter, his consciousness merged with its systems, his reflexes enhanced by computer speed. "How do you feel?" Jinha asked. "I feel like I can see everything," Quan replied. "Every enemy ship, every weakness, every way to win." Across the battlefield, Quan's fighter moved like it was alive. It rolled between laser blasts, danced around missile explosions, and struck at enemy weak points with impossible precision. Behind him, the other Ghost Squadron pilots were making the same connection. Becoming something new. Something the galaxy had never seen before, Admiral Corex watched his tactical display with growing horror. His massive fleet was being torn apart by ships that should not exist. Human fighters that moved too fast and hit too hard. Human capital ships that absorbed his heaviest weapons and kept fighting. "Sir," his tactical officer said, "we are losing ships faster than we can count them. The enemy is using some kind of technology we do not understand." "What kind of technology?" the admiral demanded. "I do not know, sir." "Their ships move like they are alive, like they can think." Admiral Corex looked at the display again. Red dots marked his dead ships. There were too many red dots. "All ships," he said. "Retreat to the edge of the system. Reform and prepare for—" His words were cut off as something massive appeared on the sensors. A human ship, but bigger than anything they had seen before. It looked like it had been grown rather than built, its hull flowing and organic. "Sir," the sensor operator said in a small voice, "that ship, it is reading us partially." "The biological?" The new vessel opened fire, and its weapons were unlike anything in the hegemony arsenal. Beams of energy that seemed to think for themselves, finding weak points in shields and armor with impossible accuracy. 3. Hegemony dreadnoughts died in the first salvo. On the bridge of the hybrid ship, Harin opened her eyes. But they were not entirely her eyes anymore. Neural pathways connected her directly to the ship's systems. Her consciousness expanded to encompass sensors and weapons and engines. "Jinha," she said, her voice carrying through space itself. "I can see their fleet command structure. I can feel their fear." "Show me," Jinha replied. Information flowed between them, mind to mind, ship to ship. The location of every enemy vessel. The weakness in their formation. The growing panic among their crews. "They came here to finish us," Harin said. "But they brought us everything we need to finish them." The battle turned into a slaughter. Human ships that fought with the memories of everyone who had died before them. Pilots who could think at computer speed. Weapons that learned from every shot fired. Admiral Corex gave the retreat order, but it was too late. The humans had surrounded his fleet, cutting off escape routes with ships that appeared from nowhere. "Sir," his aide said. "Incoming transmission." "It is from the human commander." "Put it through," the admiral said. Jinha's face appeared on the view screen. He looked older than he should, scarred by centuries of survival, but his eyes were calm. "Admiral Corex," Jinha said, "I am going to offer you something your people never offered mine." "What?" the admiral asked. "A chance to surrender, a chance to live." Admiral Corex looked at his tactical display. Half his fleet was gone, the other half was trapped. Around him, human ships waited like patient predators. "Why?" he asked. "Why let us live?" Jinha's expression did not change. "Because someone needs to go back and tell them what happened here. Someone needs to explain that this is what we became while you thought we were dead." He paused, looking directly at the admiral through the screen. "We are not the species you remember. We are what survival looks like when it stops asking permission." Admiral Corex looked around his bridge. At his crew, who were staring at him with fear in their eyes. At the tactical display that showed human ships in every direction. At the future. That was no longer his to choose. I surrender, he said. The battle for the human system was over. But the war for the galaxy was just beginning. The Hegemony Council chamber was burning, not with fire, but with the light of surrender messages flooding in from across the galaxy. One by one, the member species were abandoning their alliance and begging humans for mercy. The Aquarii were first. Their ocean worlds offered tribute and safe passage for human ships. The crystalline Zethari followed, their mountain colonies opening their weapon stockpiles to human forces. Even the proud Kavari, who had never bowed to anyone, sent messages of peaceful surrender. Only the Vorthans remained defiant. Counselor. Vex's 4 eyes were wide with panic as he read the latest reports. The Vorthans are mobilizing their home fleet. They say they will fight to the last ship. Let them, said Counselor Thane. She looked tired, defeated. It does not matter anymore. The humans have already won. She was right. In 6 months, humanity had shattered the greatest military alliance in galactic history. Not through superior numbers or better technology, but through something the galaxy had forgotten existed, pure, unstoppable will. Far from the council chambers, Jinha stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the Vorthan homeworld grow. Larger on the view screen, this was where it had all started. This was the world that had given the order to burn Earth. Today, it would learn what that order had cost. All ships, final approach, he said into the fleet communication system. His voice reached thousands of human vessels, each one crewed by people who had been forged in the void between stars. Haran status report. Haran's consciousness flowed through the fleet's neural network, touching every ship, every weapon, every pilot. She had become something beyond human, but her voice still carried the warmth of the scientist who had helped them survive. Vorthan. Defense fleet is in position, she said. 300 capital ships, 2,000 fighters. Planetary shields at maximum power. Jinha nodded. It was a strong force. Under normal circumstances, it would be enough to defend their homeworld against any attack, but these were not normal circumstances. Quan, Jinha said, are your people ready? Quan's reply came from everywhere at once. His consciousness distributed across the Ghost Squadron and their hybrid ships. We have been ready for 300 years, Commander. The battle for the Vorthan homeworld began with silence. The human fleet simply appeared in orbit, their ships materializing from hyperspace with perfect coordination, no fanfare, no demands for surrender. They just arrived, like death itself. Admiral Vec, commander of the Vorthan home fleet, stared at his sensors in disbelief. The human ships were unlike anything he had ever seen. They moved like living things, their hulls pulsing with organic light. All ships, he said, open fire, destroy them all. The Vorthan fleet unleashed everything they had. The same weapons that had burned Earth 3 centuries ago. The same planet-killer beams that had turned a blue world into glass and ash. But the human ships just absorbed the energy and kept coming. Jinha felt the enemy fire wash over his fleet like warm rain. The ship's organic hulls converted the destructive energy into power, feeding their weapons and shields. What should have destroyed them only made them stronger. Return fire, he said simply. The human response was devastating. Weapons that had learned from every battle fired with impossible accuracy. Ships that thought like living beings struck at weak points. The Vorthans did not even know they had in 10 minutes. Half the Vorthan fleet was gone. Admiral Vec watched his tactical display fill with red warning lights. His ships were dying faster than he could count them. But worse than the losses was the way the humans fought. They were not just destroying his fleet. They were playing with it. Human fighters danced between his weapons, moving so fast they seemed to teleport. Capital ships that should have been crippled kept fighting, their wounds healing as he watched. And through it all, the human commander's voice came over the communication channels. You wanted to know what made humans dangerous, Jinha said. His words reaching every Vorthan ship. It was never our technology, it was never our intelligence. It was the simple fact that when everything is taken from us, we do not break. A Vorthan dreadnought exploded, its hull torn apart by weapons that moved like living things. We become something you never imagined possible. Admiral Vek's flagship shuddered as human fighters swarmed around it like angry insects. His shields were failing. His weapons were offline. His crew was preparing for death. "Sir," his communications officer said, "the humans are broadcasting on all frequencies." "Put it through," the admiral said. Jinha's face appeared on every screen in the Vorthan fleet. He looked older now, marked by the weight of command and the memory of his lost world. But his eyes were calm. "People of Vorth," he said, "your fleet is defeated. Your shields are failing. Your planet is defenseless." Admiral Vek waited for the demand for surrender, for the terms of occupation, for the cruel laughter of victorious enemies. Instead, Jinha continued speaking. 300 years ago, your people looked at Earth and decided we were a threat that needed to be eliminated. You were right, but you were also wrong. The image changed, showing Earth as it had been, blue and green and beautiful. Then it showed Earth as it became, a ball of cooling glass orbiting a star that remembered life. You made us a threat by trying to destroy us. You created the very enemy you feared. And now we are here at your homeworld, with the power to do to you what you did to us. Admiral Vek closed his eyes. This was it. This was how his species would end. "But we will not," Jinha said. The admiral's eyes snapped open. "We will not burn your world. We will not kill your children. We will not make you extinct." "Do you know why?" The communication channel was silent. "Because that is what you would do, and we are no longer the species you remember." The human fleet began to withdraw, pulling back from the defenseless planet, but they did not leave entirely. They took position at the edge of the system, watching, waiting. "We are the species that survives," Jinha continued. "We are the species that remembers. We are the species that learned to turn our pain into something stronger than your hatred." His image faded, but his final words echoed across every Vorthan communication system. "The galaxy will learn to coexist with us. Not because we rule it, but because we refuse to let it forget what happens when you try to make humans extinct." Years passed. The hegemony was gone, replaced by something new. Something that remembered the cost of thinking any species was too weak to matter. Jinha, now gray and lined but still unbroken, stood in the observation deck of a human station orbiting Earth. The planet was still glass and ash, still dead. But life was returning to the system. Human life, alien life, working together to build something better. "Commander," a young voice said behind him. It was one of the new generation, born after the war. Born into a galaxy that knew humanity's name. "Yes?" Jinha said. "The council meeting is ready. The Vorthans want to discuss trade agreements." Jinha smiled. The Vorthans had learned. They all had. "Tell them we will be there shortly," he said. He looked out at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, Haran's consciousness flowed through the neural networks of 100 worlds, helping species adapt and grow. Somewhere else, Quan patrolled the outer rim, watching for threats that might not understand the lesson the galaxy had learned. The lesson was simple. Humanity was no longer prey. They were the reminder that evolution never stops. And the most dangerous species is one that has learned to make survival look like art. Jinha turned away from the window and walked toward the future his species had earned, a future where the galaxy remembered their name,